Gaming backlogs are kind of annoying, and realistically they will never ever go away. The constant feeling of wanting to clear up the backlog creates a lot of frustration because no matter who you are, you cannot resist a good game sale, adding more games to that backlog. The only way we can truly blow off steam is by knocking the lights out of our backlog. A one-on-one ring match where you take on each game separately and beat the ever-loving crap out of them. This is exactly what I'm gonna be doing. I'm gonna be fighting my gaming backlog. I'll be identifying their strengths and weaknesses just before I knock them the fuck out. Now let's see what the first game's gonna be.
さあ、1年前からどんくらい強くなったか見せてくれや、はじめちゃん。いや、山ちゃんや。
Starting this off strong with another Yakuza game taken off my backlog. Oh wait, sorry, I mean Like a Dragon. I don't know why they changed the name, honestly. As of the writing of this, Like a Dragon Ishin is the final game in the RGG library that I needed to take out of my backlog. And all of this build-up, all of these amazing games, ended on a pretty good game. Yeah, Ishin is far from my favorite game in the series. I honestly kinda wish I finished off this journey with like Infinite Wealth or Lost Judgment instead. I mean, RGG have said they have a surprise announcement during the Tokyo Game Show, and I mean, this series is the Japanese equivalent to Call of Duty, so the games will never ever stop coming out. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Like a Dragon Ishin is good, but it's nothing special. It's not the worst RGG game I've played, and it's definitely not the best. If I were to place it in a ranking, I would put it above Yakuza 3, 4, and 5, maybe even 6 at a push, but it would definitely be below something like Kiwami 2, maybe even Kiwami 1. Ishin technically doesn't take place within the Yakuza universe. Instead, it's more of a spin-off styled game retelling a historical Japanese tale where figures within that story are replaced by established characters within the Yakuza universe, with Kiryu playing the role as the main character, Sakamoto Ryoma. I don't know if I said that right. It feels both weird and kinda cool seeing a lot of these familiar faces, but ultimately it just feels kind of off to me because, I mean, these aren't the same characters I've come to know and love, so I didn't feel all too invested in the story. It is a good story overall though, don't get me wrong, I just didn't feel the same heights that I felt in other RGG games. I'm also kinda burnt out with the whole feudal Japan setting. I never found it too interesting to begin with, so that didn't help all too much. Assassin's Creed Shadows is never ever gonna be in my library. I don't think I've seen a game more horrifically boring in my entire life. None of these gripes I have bring down Ishin though. It was a great time almost all the way through. The good shit you'd expect to find in a Yakuza game is here, even with its subtle homosexuality. For starters, the combat within Ishin is a lot of fun. It can feel a bit stiff at times due to the fact they didn't actually change all too much in the remake with the combat from what I can tell compared to the original. The only new thing they added were these trooper cards which let you do all kinds of things, like healing yourself, enhancing your damage numbers, and even casting a giant stream of fire from your hands. Yeah, I can't tell if this is a stupid mechanic or if it's amazing. It's really hard to put my finger on what I think about it. The only thing I truly hate is the fact there are ones for influencers. Influencers I've never heard of. Yes, I'm very bitter that I'm not on one of these cards. Then again, Sega have always been pretty shocking with choosing which influencers should promote their games. Do you guys remember when they paid XQC of all people to play Infinite Wealth? And he didn't even realize it was a turn-based game while playing?
Come on, do it. Come on, buddy.
Yeah, I remember that. I think everyone remembers that. It was a horrible idea. Just like with every other Yakuza game, Ishin also includes a huge amount of side content. They all completely range with what you can do. There is a lot of variety when it comes to them. You can do stuff like dancing in front of a crowd, going through a dungeon for crafting materials for your weaponry, and hell, they even have karaoke in the game. They somehow managed to shoehorn it in, and it's fucking awesome. Oh, and of course Backlog ties in this game. Ishin is a good game, and if you're a huge fan of the Yakuza games like I am, I definitely recommend playing it at some point, although I wouldn't set it as a priority. Also, RGG, for the next remake, please do Dead Souls. That game deserves a second chance. Now, if you're expecting me to just rip into Starfield, you've come to the wrong video, because I'm not gonna be doing that. Even though it does deserve to be made fun of with some elements of the game. I went into Starfield with fairly low expectations. I had watched all of the videos shitting on it beforehand, so I was fully expecting something pretty terrible. Although there was a little thought in the back of my mind that I might end up enjoying it, because I personally really like Fallout 4 and everyone hates that game, so maybe Starfield might have been the same case. For brief moments while playing it, it definitely was. There were moments where I was having an absolute blast exploring giant cities and compounds on alien planets, killing and murdering everyone I see. But after about an hour or two, it hit me. People weren't lying when they said there was truly nothing to do in this game other than talk to NPCs and shoot spongy enemies. Its exploration is especially bad. Who thought that creating a space travel game with nothing to do with the space traveling was a good idea? In fact, traveling through space is so pointless. You spend most of the time opening up a menu to fast travel to another planet rather than going into the empty nothingness. You can't even land on planets naturally like you can in No Man's Sky. That's an indie game compared to Starfield. In fact, in Starfield, you have to fucking open up a menu to get close to the planet to begin with. You can't fly to it naturally. Then once you've loaded in on the planet's surface, you have to open up another menu just to land on it. It's baffling. Why did they do this? Oh, and yeah, there's literally nothing on these planets too. Okay, that's a lie. There's the occasional point of interest every now and then, but they're so spread out from each other that you spend most of your time just running across a barren wasteland like you're playing Fallout New Vegas. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist the comparison. The missions within Starfield are dull too. For every actual interesting mission where you're doing something like solving a mystery about where alien monsters called the Terramorphs are coming from, there are about 20 where you're just going back and forth between planets, opening up menus, talking to boring NPCs, which all amounts to absolutely nothing. None of the factions are interesting either. Fallout 4 didn't have any amazing ones, but I at least remember them. I could not name a single one from Starfield off the top of my head. In fact, the only two I can remember are like the Space Police and Evil Corporation in Cyberpunk City. Yeah, that's literally the only two that I can kind of remember. I can't even think of their names. All of this makes me sad because I was really hoping for an underrated game that I could personally enjoy and spend hundreds of hours exploring like I did with Fallout 4. But no, Starfield just isn't that.
Name's Goofy.
I'm Sora.
All for one, one for all.
Kingdom Hearts is one of the strangest AAA games ever conceived. Never in my entire life did I think that there would be a game with both Disney and Final Fantasy characters sharing the same universe. To be fair, the 2000s were a different time. I have a lot of nostalgia for it. Shit was easier back then. Kingdom Hearts is no exception. While playing through the game, I just felt pure nostalgia despite the fact I'd never played the game as a kid, which is kind of odd. I think it's just because the game feels exactly like one of those dreams you would have when you were younger after watching a film or playing a game where you're put into the world yourself, but because it's a dream, they don't feel quite right and feel kinda liminal and strange. Yes, this statement is just a way for me to plug my video about why I find the original Kingdom Hearts kind of unsettling, whilst at the same time finding it quite nostalgic. It's a strange feeling. I did enjoy my time with Kingdom Hearts. It is an incredibly unique game with its combat and its RPG elements. For starters, with the combat, you wield a thing called the Keyblade, and to attack with it, you press X/A on the controller, which at first is really strange because that's the universal jump button for most games, but you get used to it fairly quickly. You can also combine normal attacks with magic, which are named after the spells you can use within the Final Fantasy universe. Honestly, the combat can feel pretty stiff at times, especially with how inconsistent the camera can be jumping all around the place when you lock onto an enemy, but that's just a given for a first in a series. They were trying new things and they weren't entirely used to it. Also, it's from 2002, I can excuse it. Although I understand why it could put a lot of people off playing it, especially with how much of an upgrade Kingdom Hearts 2's combat is. Unlocking abilities and leveling up is weird in the game too. While you do get permanent upgrades to your stats like health, defense, and damage when leveling up, you you actually have to equip certain skills with a thing called AP, which increases with level ups. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Donald and Goofy, they accompany you throughout the game, except for that one time they ditch you because your mate Riku nicks your Keyblade, so you get accompanied by Beast from Beauty and the Beast briefly. You can't make this shit up. Oh, that actually reminds me, the Disney worlds. Can't forget about them. They're bloody integral to Kingdom Hearts games. And in Kingdom Hearts 1, they're alright. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of them because I'm not huge on the Disney films they're based off of. I think the only two that are from films that I enjoyed as a kid are the Olympus Coliseum from Hercules and The Nightmare Before Christmas World. To add on to this, all the worlds are fairly empty and you can get lost in them very easily due to the outdated level design and lack of knowing where to go. Deep Jungle from Tarzan is easily the worst offender of this because of how vertical it is. I have genuine PTSD from that world. The story of Kingdom Hearts 1 is probably the best in the series because, I mean, everyone knows how infamous the plot of this franchise is. Kingdom Hearts 1 was the first in the series, so it was before shit could get convoluted. And the story really just boils down to the main character Sora trying to save his friends Riku and Kairi after darkness takes over their home. Obviously there's also an overarching plot about a door to darkness and Heartless and shit, but it's easy to understand while you're playing. You don't have to play a Game Boy Advance card game to understand why the sequel starts the way it does. Ooh, foreshadowing. Speedrunning is something I've never been good at, and the only game that is dedicated to speedrunning that I've ever played is Ghostrunner, but I never really went back to master it after beating it, which is the whole point of speedrunning games. So JETRUNNER was a fairly unfamiliar experience for me. Yet despite this, I had a lot of fun, and it's the first time I've actually had fun playing a speedrunning game. So just like other speedrunning games, JETRUNNER has us traversing small, tightly designed areas that you're pushed to replay to get the best rank you can possibly get by finishing it in a faster time. And there isn't a single bad level here. Through my entire time pushing through, there wasn't a single point where I felt like my failures and slip-ups was the game's fault. It was always a skill issue on my part because, like I said, I'm not exactly amazing at these types of games. These failures never put me off to push through though. I always wanted to do better every time, and I did genuinely feel like I was improving the more I failed. It was a great feeling, and that's when it actually clicked for me. I like the speedrunning genre, and this game helped me see that. Oh, and to add on to the positives, every new area in JETRUNNER introduces a new power-up gimmick that completely changed the way you beat the levels. Like this punch power-up that lets you break walls, but causes you to bounce off, so you have to control it. There's also the jet boots that propel you in the air, and the ice power-up that lets you create platforms in water like it's Majora's Mask, so you know this game's peak if it's like Majora's Mask. And that's only a few of the power-ups. There's all kinds of different mechanics that spice things up, and it's just a great time all the way through. If I were to complain about one thing though, and this is a highly subjective thing, the voice acting was pretty grating. I get they wanted to tell a story and for all I know it might be good, but I muted the voices pretty early in because it felt like they spoke constantly during the levels, and it was heavily throwing me off when I was trying to just beat them as quickly as possible. Despite that though, JETRUNNER was a great time, and I think it's opened the holy gates to an entire genre of games that I originally didn't care for to begin with, so I have to thank it for that. Oh man, fighting through all these games is tiring me out. I think I need to take a breather and let someone else take it from here.
Yo, hi, I'm Bappo, also known as the guy who hates Dying Light 2 as if it's my job. Prey, not this Prey, not this Prey either, and not this Prey 2, but this Prey is a masterpiece. Prey 2017, as everybody likes to call it, is one of Arcane's best immersive sims. Matter of fact, it's the best immersive sim out there. Now, what is an immersive sim? Well, if I try to explain what is an immersive sim, I'm pretty sure Proxidist will block me and will never message me again. In Prey, you play as a character called Morgan Yu, and after finding out that you've been living the same day for over a month, month and you weren't actually in a nice apartment but in space, you decide to shake things up. This game heavily relies on the players to actually have some brains in order to get past through some obstacles. Let me give you a quick example. This door is locked by a key card. Now if this was any other game, then you will have to go find said key card in order to open the door. But this is an immersive sim, remember. You can either shoot the monitor with a plastic dartboard so you can open the door, or you can invest some skill points into hacking so you can hack the door. Or you can transform into a small object and enter through a small path to open the door from the inside. The possibilities are endless and your problem solving ability is the limit. There is also a bunch of aliens aboard Talos 1. Some of you might know the funny mimic creatures that transforms into an object and jump scares you the moment you drop your guard, but there is more than just one alien. There is the Weaver that can change a dead body into a phantom, which is also another enemy that has the blink ability from Dishonored. There is another alien, Typhon, called Technopath that can control nearby machines and turn them against you, and there is also a big Typhon called the Nightmare that can spawn in randomly throughout your playthrough, and he's a big fella and a mean one too. What I'm trying to say is that every enemy in this game is great and all of them have a unique trait to them and can be dealt with by many different ways. So if you haven't played Prey 2017, go check it out. It's honestly a masterpiece. Thank you Sam for allowing me to talk about my favorite game, and do drugs kids.
Thank you, Bappo. Okay, I'm ready to take on the next game now. I do not like Dead Island 2. I have tried twice to get into this game, but it's just so boring. It feels like an early PS3 era game, and not in the fun way. I'm talking about low budget shovelware tier shit. Oh wow, just like the first Dead Island, I'm glad they kept up tradition. Maybe they were a bit too faithful to the original, because just like it, Dead Island 2 is a miserable experience. All the game really is just killing zombies with a weird ass card system that allows you to perform new moves. I have no idea what it is with games trying these weird card systems for buffs and abilities. They're never good. Do you guys remember Back 4 Blood? Another zombie game that had the exact same system? Oh wow, that game did really well, didn't it? This type of shit actually makes me yearn for a skill tree, which says a lot because skill trees are overdone to shit. To give the game some credit, the combat is kind of fun at times, although it's very rare. Most of the weapons feel weirdly floaty and have no impact to them. But when you do find an actual good weapon that packs a punch, it really packs that punch. As morbid as this sounds, the way zombies can break down is really ahead of its time. Dying Light 2 wishes it had this. Then again, Dead Island 2 wishes it was Dying Light in terms of being an actual good game. The world is boring too. I originally thought this was just down to the fact I don't like the LA setting, because LA is a complete and utter shithole. It also reminds me of Seth Rogen. Like I said, my disdain for the world originally boiled down to the area it's based, but then I remembered I really liked the world of Dead Rising 3, which was also based on LA. Then it hit me, and I realized, in a game like Dying Light 2, the world is seamless. You can literally go anywhere, and the parkour really helped with this. In Dead Island 2, the game is set in zones that are connected by loading screens. There isn't any fun traversal to get through these zones. All you can do is run through them, fighting the same boring enemies, with the same boring weapons. Yeah, I don't like Dead Island 2. If you love Dead Island 2, then props to you. I wish I could too. I'm saying 2 a lot. I never want to go into a game with the sole purpose of hating it, but this game was just a miserable experience for me.
Curfew is still in effect! Go back to your homes!
What's going on? Tell us the truth.
Enough lies!
No! Run! All of you!
I was incredibly surprised by this game. 4 years ago I played A Plague Tale: Innocence, and I thought it was a good game. It had an engaging story and some fun gameplay moments, but nothing about it really stood out to me, so I wasn't expecting all too much from Requiem when it came out. In fact, I had no interest in playing it originally. That wasn't until a friend of mine told me that this game will make you feel like shit, and I love myself some miserable games. After finishing it, I can confirm that this game is horrifically sad. Now, I've always been a gameplay focused guy. I've never seen stories in games as the priority because, you know, they're games. They should focus on the gameplay, it's literally in the name. But Requiem is one of the rare cases where I'm completely engrossed with the story, and I didn't care that the gameplay was nothing special. In fact, a lot of it just boiled down to running and walking through locations, solving the occasional puzzle, whilst also stealthing your way through areas with patrolling guards. But I didn't mind this because the story was so good. If you've played A Plague Tale: Innocence, you'll know that the story is focused around a plague that's taking over. Swarms of rats are overrunning cities, eating people alive and spreading a disease. The plague and the rats are all related to the main character Amicia's little brother Hugo. The first game does a great job at making you build a connection with these characters. You actually end up feeling like Amicia, wanting to protect Hugo from all of this and understand what's wrong with him. Requiem expands on this, giving us more of an insight into Hugo's condition and why all of this is happening and how he can control the rats. I'm not going to spoil anything, but by the end you're praying that these two make it out alive and have a happy ending, especially Amicia, because she goes through a literal fucking hell in this game. When someone posts another tweet of Ellie from The Last of Us asking who went through more pain than her, just quote them with a picture of Amicia because I felt so bad for her by the end. There's even a section that you can actually miss hidden away near the end where she just breaks down crying briefly because of all the shit that's happened. Yet despite all of the crap she has to go through, she is constantly pushing on throughout the game. She's incredibly strong, not just mentally but also physically. She can literally kill a guy by slinging a rock hard enough at their head, so yeah, I wouldn't mess with her.
Everything she did for her country. She sacrificed her life and her honor for her native land. She was a real hero. She was a true patriot.
I'm gonna be honest with you all, I used to be a bit of a Kojima hater. I truly didn't get why everyone loved him so much. Then again, the only two games I had played were Metal Gear Solid 5 and Death Stranding. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say those two are his greatest work. I've always wanted to play the original trilogy of Metal Gear games, and about a year ago they were finally ported to PC, so I bought that shit day one and jumped right into the third one because it's a prequel to all of them. And after finishing it, I was like this.
Oh my god. I get it.
I understand why people love this guy so much, especially if they played this literal masterpiece of a game. Metal Gear Solid 3 is amazing, and aside from some of the outdated controls you need to get used to, it still holds up to this day. Despite its age, they didn't skimp out on anything, especially the immersion. They pushed the PlayStation 2 to its absolute limit. You're traversing a jungle that feels like it actually has a living ecosystem. On your journey through, you're constantly seeing animals minding their own business, and they are integral to the survival mechanics of the game. You have to hunt the animals around you to eat them to keep your health up. And yes, you can eat a snake and you get an achievement for it. The immersion doesn't end there though. If you get injured at any point, the amount of health you can regain is capped until you go out of your way to heal yourself. And it's not as simple as just using a med kit or some shit. You need to go into the menu to gouge a bullet out of yourself with a knife, disinfect the wound and bandage yourself up. You don't see any of this, it's all done through a menu because it's a PS2 game, but it is still cool. It really makes you feel like you're surviving by the skin of your teeth. The deliberate tediousness of healing yourself provokes you to avoid combat as much as possible, focusing more on stealth, and there's a whole unique mechanic around that too. You're able to change what Snake is wearing as well as what face paint he has, and depending on what environment you're in, there's a percentage in the top right that tells you how blended in you are, allowing you to sneak past guards easier. There's so many choices to choose from too, and Oh. Now I say you're gonna want to be avoiding combat, and you'd think that the combat would be forced on you for something like a boss fight, but no, Kojima considered that, giving you multiple ways to tackle some of them. You've most definitely heard about the end, right? That old man who is a master with his sniper rifle? His boss fight has you trying to sneak up on him while he's camped out prone with his sniper, but there are two other ways you can actually defeat him. The one you've most definitely heard about is when you stop playing the game for a week. Once you come back, you'll get a unique cutscene showing you that he's died of old age waiting for you to come back. The other way you can defeat him is right after a cutscene. If you're quick enough, you can snipe the back of his head, killing him there and then. The game even rewards you for this too, with achievements. Metal Gear Solid 3 is amazing. Very rare for a game inspired by the Dark Souls series to be actually good. But Another Crab's Treasure, it's up there with the likes of Lies of P and Neo of being actually worthy of the title Souls-like. And you want to know something? It's one of the best games I've played this year. I even went out of my way to 100% it, which is very rare for me to do nowadays. I have to really like a game to bring myself to do absolutely everything in it. Okay, I'll stop glazing it and actually explain why I enjoyed it so much. So Another Crab's Treasure has you playing as a crab called Krill, and Krill is a bit of a hermit. Do you get it? Because he's a hermit crab. Well, Krill hasn't been paying taxes on his shell home, so a literal loan shark comes and takes it away from him, and you spend the rest of the game searching the depths of the ocean to get his shell home back. And when I say the depths of the ocean, I mean the deep, dark depths. You know, that scary part with shit like vampire squids in it. I hate those things. There is more to the plot, which I'm not gonna spoil too much of, because Another Crab's Treasure is definitely one of those games that I highly recommend playing for yourself, especially if you enjoy action RPGs like the Souls games and Elden Ring. Unlike the Souls games though, you won't be finding a huge array of weaponry to use for a variety of different builds in this game. Krill only has one weapon at his disposal, which is this fork. You know, it's a handy tool, you know, it gets the job done, but this weapon isn't what makes this game's combat unique. See, the ocean is littered with rubbish, which is scattered around everywhere, and this rubbish can literally be anything. Krill can use these as a shell that he's able to use to shield himself from attacks, acting as a shield. And these pieces of rubbish don't just act as a fancy looking shield. Each one gives him a special ability he can perform during combat. The trade-off is the shells can break easily, so you're constantly running around arenas trying to find a shell, forcing you to think on your feet and adapt to whatever resources you have around you. It's good shit, I really enjoy it. Sometimes after fighting a main boss, you can also acquire a special ability that doesn't require a shell, and some of these feel kinda busted. And the devs probably knew this, which is why they go on a hefty cooldown after using them. You can equip 2 of these, and they can all be upgraded. Oh, and there's also a skill tree you can upgrade that gives you new moves and abilities, expanding the combat even more. One example is being able to put the shell you're using onto the fork to create a DIY hammer. It's good shit. I mean, it's inspired by this game. Unlike Dark Souls though, there's an assist mode in Another Crab's Treasure, where you can give Krill a gun. It one-shots everything, including bosses. You can't make this shit up. There's even an achievement for using it. Speaking of the bosses, some of these are absolutely horrifying, which is something you wouldn't expect from a game that looks like this. There's also roaming bosses that are very willing to kick your teeth in, like Pagarus the Ravenous over here, who roams a big open area and is not afraid to scran you if you step off the beaten path. I love how the bosses look incredibly imposing by just looking hyper realistic. The contrast between them and the cartoony friendly characters really makes an impact. The enemies also go for this hyper realistic style too, and it's all for a reason. It's because they've been corrupted by the pollution that surrounds everything, and when they get corrupted by it, they become hyper realistic and attack anything on sight. It's a funny way of giving a reason as to why the enemies are hostile, but this is the ocean. You don't really need a reason to explain why this place is dangerous.
Jack, you help us win this. I'll know you're ready.
Okay, so I didn't go into this game expecting much. Neither critics or the general audience really enjoyed it, and it was a huge flop when it came out back in 2023. EA obviously weren't too happy about this, laying off half of the staff weeks after the game's release, which is truly a shame because Immortals of Aveum surprised me. Despite the fact I couldn't actually finish it due to it just breaking down on me, seriously the PC port felt like a mess. I wasn't even running it on max settings. I had DLSS on and it still stuttered loads. These are my specs just to put it in perspective. If I can run Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart at max settings flawlessly, I should be able to run this. So what is Immortals of Aveum about? You're probably wondering. Truthfully, I don't actually know. From what I played, the story felt like Marvel tier slop, not to mention how insufferable the characters and dialogue were. So I ended up just phasing most of it out with the cool dial-up sound playing in my head every time a cutscene played. Despite all of this, I did actually enjoy the game. At least, I enjoyed what I played until it fully broke on me and I couldn't play anymore. The concept for it is really cool. It's basically a first-person shooter, but instead of guns, use a bunch of different ranged magic instead, with different colored versions acting as a variation of different guns, like the red one being a shotgun and the green one being more automatic. Switching between these feels instant and the flow of combat felt incredible, which is something I was not expecting because the footage shown off for this game did not give the combat any justice whatsoever, making it look slow and downright boring. Probably because it's a first-person shooter and they were showcasing it using a controller, which does no FPS game any favors. Do you remember when Doom Eternal was revealed and they had to show it on mouse and keyboard right after to make sure you could see the difference? And that difference was literally night and day. Like, it looked so, like, some FPS games become completely different depending on what you're playing it on, and Immortals of Aveum is no different. So yeah, I'm honestly struggling to think of things to even say about this game. I mean, I like what I played of Immortals of Aveum, but damn, I had no idea what was going on during the development for this, and it's honestly quite a sad sight. If you've been watching my videos for a while now, then you're well aware of my opinion on the Outlast series. If you're new, well, first of all, welcome, I hope you're enjoying the video so far, and I'd like to let you know that I fucking hate Outlast. Despite being a huge fan of horror games, I really despise what Outlast did to the genre, creating a trend of run and hide trial and error games with an abundance of random ass jump scares that don't feel necessary at all. Okay, thanks game. Due to the trial and error nature, any form of fear you feel completely evaporates as you go through the same section and set piece over and over again, being chased by and hiding from the same British football fan looking fucker because his favourite team, the Renfort Wankers, lost 1-0 and he had a few too many pints of Stella while watching. Well, I have some news for you. The most recent game in this series, Outlast Trials, is actually pretty sick and I've had a lot of fun playing it. Yeah, I know, crazy, right? Outlast Trials does something new for the series. You can play it with up to 3 friends. I only played with one other friend, my mate Ibrahim, you know, the guy who told me to play a Plague Tale Requiem if you remember from the previous video, so yeah, I couldn't have chosen anyone more fitting to play it with.
Hey, look, check out this guy, Sam! Look at this guy! Look at me, Down.
I didn't realise how much more enjoyable the Outlast formula could become just from it having co-op. It's completely made me do a full 180 on my opinion on this series. Like, I actually kind of want to go back and try the other 2 out again. Maybe not Outlast 2, that game fucking sucked. The game is built around playing with others, which means you have to work as a team. I wouldn't recommend playing it with randoms because you need communication to solve some of these puzzles. I also appreciate how Trials is laid out too. You're not just running down a linear path being chased and jump scared occasionally. No, instead you're put into an area that you have to navigate through and learn while solving a variety of different puzzles that let you progress to accomplish a task, with you having to run for your life once you've finished it back to extract out of there before you're murdered by whatever psychopath is lurking around. There are 3 main antagonists currently. This creepy ass cop dude with a taser, this horrifying lady and her sock puppet with a drill in its mouth, and the new character, your average Redditor. These three aren't the only threats you'll be facing in the levels though. There are other psychotic people who are frequently waiting around the corner just to jump you. The developers got creative with the ways they want you dead, having enemies disguise themselves as your friend, and having them run up to you and shank you, as well as spray your face with some sort of drug that lowers your sanity. And when that sanity is gone, an entity called the Skinner Man comes after you and drains your health until you're dead. Yeah, shit can get a bit crazy and completely terrifying. Now, Outlast has always been a really fucked up game, but not in the best ways. It just kind of feels like it's trying to shock you for the sake of it. Trials, on the other hand, takes it to another level, with you having to brutally murder and mutilate people just to progress in some missions. Like this one where you have to slowly and painfully saw this guy's legs off in a church.
His wing is worrying me.
I really have to be careful what I show with the footage because I know for a fact I will be demonetized instantly if any of this shit is shown without censorship. Even visually, the levels are uncomfortable to be in. Like this one amusement park ride which is based around gums and teeth, and there's a section within it that the puppet lady has turned into a workshop where she stores her skinned faces. The ride is also called the Root Canal, by the way. This game is great. Okay, I need to take a break from fighting through my backlog, so let's get someone else to help me out here. Now, personally, I can't think of anyone better than the channel with the freakishly long name to help me out. Take it away.
Hello there, I'm the channel with the freakishly long name. Nice to meet you. Or maybe you already know who I am, which is going to cause me sleepless nights of overwhelming anxiety. Or maybe you've just seen me on YouTube, then, you know, that's a bit less creepy. Any case, Prox has been so kind to ask me to talk about backlogs, something I've been very passionate about getting through. So much so that I think that this is the year where I managed to beat the most games in a single year. 59 to be exact. Yes, I'm 10 short off of the funny number, but... Shut up. Any case, throughout my backlog clearing journey, I've played and beaten quite a lot of games, but the one I'm actually the most proud of off of this list is none other than 2015's Bloodborne. Yes, I don't think I need to give Bloodborne any introductions, and if I do, then I assume that you actually know how grass feels, so congratulations. It's the game that has the most accurate depiction of modern-day London. It's the game that predates Elden Ring's Blight, where From Software started to incorporate furries, and most importantly, it's the game that Sony just refuses to release on modern-day consoles and PC, because I'm assuming that they just hate higher frame rates as much as they hate the Helldivers 2-player base. But despite all of that, I think that this is still one of the best games I've played both in 2024 and in general. And the fact that I was actually even able to beat this game speaks volumes about how good it actually is, because I'm not usually the best at Souls games. Everything about this game, from the dark gothic streets of Birmingham, Yarnum, coupled with the deep, slow, methodical combat that Souls games are best known for, and just also in the ways that they were able to spruce up the formula, like focusing more on aggressiveness versus being a little bitch boy in the Souls games hiding behind an oversized ironing board, and how they focus on other things like the weapons now being a more quality over quantity thing, despite the fact that I think I stuck with the Hunter's Axe and Ludwig's Holy Blade for pretty much 90% of my playthrough. And the bosses as well, whether it be something early on like the Cleric Beast at the beginning of the game or the one reborn later on, they are still without a doubt the biggest highlights of this game and where most of your challenge is going to stem from. Except for Mikolash, he can get visceraled up his ass like the pigs in this game for all I give a shit. But yeah, with all of that out of the way, I'd still 100% recommend you give this game a go. That is, if you still have a PS4, or if you don't mind playing the game still locked at 30 FPS. Why do you hate us, Sony? Any case, thanks for having me on, Prox. Goodbye.
Say, fellas, did somebody mention the door to darkness?
Kingdom Hearts 2 is great. Just like the original, it's a game full of magic and whimsy, and again, I felt an intense amount of nostalgia whilst playing through it. Despite the fact I'd never played it as a kid, I was too busy playing shit like Scooby-Doo Mystery Mayhem. Did you guys know this game was made by the Dead by Daylight developers? Yes, crazy. Kingdom Hearts 2 is exactly what a sequel should be. It improves on almost everything from the original. Better combat, better voice acting and direction. The combat especially, like going from the first to this one is like night and day. It's so fluid, it is probably the best combat in the entire series. Hell, even compared to some action games that came out recently, it feels better than. Really makes me wonder why they didn't just stick with this one in the future games. But we'll get to that in another video. I have many thoughts about this one that might surprise you. Just like with the original game, you're exploring a bunch of Disney worlds with Donald and Goofy at your side. They got more experimental with the worlds too, basing some off of live action films like Pirates of the Caribbean. I can't tell if these models look good for a PS2 game or if they're absolutely horrifying. They also paid homage to some of the ancient Disney animations like Steamboat Willie with my favourite level, Timeless River, having everything being in black and white and even having their voices sound all old-timey and shit. I would say Kingdom Hearts 2 has around the same amount of levels as the original, which is odd considering it's double the length. This is because there's a 2 in the title. It's times 2 everything, wowie. I'm joking, this game's length is mainly because of the fact you have to go back to almost every single Disney world twice, which is actually one of my main problems with Kingdom Hearts 2, and it's why I actually prefer the original over it. After a certain point, the game just starts to feel really dragged out. Like, yeah, there are unique areas you go to within the worlds on your second trip, but it doesn't help with the fact the level design just has nothing to it. You're going from corridor to corridor, killing enemies. There isn't much exploration to be had, not to mention how empty the worlds feel. And to add on to this, you don't have that same sense of adventure exploring these worlds, and I do kind of get it. They were clearly proud of this combat system they crafted and expanded on, and they probably wanted it to be the main focus. I mean, people did complain about shit like the platforming in the original, so yeah, I completely get why they did this. Regarding the story of it, shit gets really complicated with this game. In fact, you need to play 2 separate games before this one just to have a clue as to what's going on, especially with the intro, having you play as a different character called Roxas for a solid 4 hours, doing mundane shit. It's not the worst section in the world, but it makes me never want to replay this game again. I do like Kingdom Hearts 2, it's a great game and I understand why it's considered a classic, but I just prefer the simplicity of the original. Here we go, another VR game off the backlog. Now, if you've been watching this series back to back, then you might recall me saying this. We got another VR game. Expect way more to be on these backlog videos because I aim to beat at least one every month. Yeah, that didn't last. I do plan on covering VR games though because some of these are absolute bangers that deserve to be talked about. And Vertigo 2 is no different. It expands so much on the original. It's like night and day, it's crazy. From the gunplay to the level design, hell, even the variety of enemies and bosses is vastly improved. Just like with the original, it's heavily inspired by the Half-Life series. And the sequel fully embraces that inspiration in not so subtle ways.
Oh, what's that piece of junk doing here? Ridiculous. We wouldn't possibly have you fight deadly aliens in a high-tech facility using a crowbar. That would be absurd.
Not really an issue because, I mean, one of the best VR games you can get is a Half-Life game. Just like with the beginning of the original Half-Life, Vertigo 2 has an outbreak of aliens within a lab that causes everything to go to hell. On your journey, you explore different sections of the lab as well as random ass alien dimensions, and you can never predict what's gonna happen in these dimensions too. There's one that has you scaling a giant tree, fighting Sap, defending a sacred relic of theirs that you need to get. There's an area where you're in the middle of a war between robot cultists and robot Russians, and you have to choose a side in the war, giving you a completely different boss and outcome for the mission depending on what you choose. You also get a unique weapon. I chose the Russians because you get this AK, and I just thought it was funny wielding an AK, a boring ass weapon in this sci-fi setting, taking on all these weird ass aliens and robots. Literally, I could go on about how amazing this game is, but I don't want to spoil anything. I would say this game is worth getting a VR headset for, and I would easily put it up there with Half-Life Alyx as one of the best VR games you can buy.
What a goddamn clusterfuck.
Yeah, that basically sums up Atomic Heart. It becomes a weird-ass hybrid open world game midway through, and I dropped it there because it was very boring. Persona 5 is finally finished. It had been sat staring at me in my backlog for a solid, let me see here, around 2 years, just tormenting me. And in December, I decided to just binge the thing until I finished it. I refused to let myself take a break because I knew for a fact I would have forgotten about it and ended up playing something else if I did. Not because the game is bad, but because of how intimidating the thing is with how long it takes to finish. So yeah, I finished it in almost half the time that people usually beat it in. Yeah, I can explain. I posted this on my YouTube community tab and people weren't too happy with how quickly I beat it, claiming I didn't quote-unquote properly experience it and I had missed the endgame royal content. Now, I can assure you that I didn't. I did all the main stuff, including the endgame royal stuff. The reason why I almost halved the average time it takes to beat was because I started to skip a lot of the social side stuff because I was just so invested in the main story that I wanted time to move faster to progress it. I probably missed a lot of cool character stuff, but it genuinely didn't take away from how much I enjoyed it. Now, if you know me, you know that I'm not a huge fan of anime, and honestly, I'm not a huge fan of turn-based JRPGs either. The only one that I really liked before playing this was Like a Dragon. But yeah, I think I like JRPGs now thanks to Persona 5. Who would have seen this coming, right? In the game, you play as a high schooler who you get to name yourself, and you get pulled into this weird world called the metaverse, which is like a place created by people's subconsciousness and desires. And if someone is fucked up enough in the head, their subconscious creates a huge stronghold, referred to as a palace within the world. Within that palace is a treasure, and once it's been stolen, it causes the person to have a change of heart and admit to all of their crimes out of nowhere. The metaverse is a hostile place full of creatures called personas, but because you're so cool and awesome and the main character, you're able to gain these personas' powers to utilize for yourself, like it's Pokemon, except it doesn't look and run like shit. Yeah, I feel like even with the Switch 2, Pokemon games are still gonna look like fucking dog shit. Utilizing the different personas you acquire allows you to gain new moves and buffs that let you take advantage of enemy weaknesses. Something unique for Persona is the fact when you hit an enemy's weakness, you knock the enemy on the ground, giving you another turn. And once you manage to knock every enemy on the ground, you're able to talk to a persona of your choice to try and get their power, or to get items and cash. Or, and this is the thing you should do, you can do an all-out attack, which ends shit quickly with this stylish end screen, which is unique for every single party member. It goes hard. Speaking of the party members, I would talk about the characters of the game, but I mean, I skipped a lot of the confidence stuff you can do because I just wanted the buffs for the fights. Although I can easily say that Ryuji is the best character, and he's the first one who joins your party.
You for real?
You and your team become a group known as the Phantom Thieves, which slowly grows in popularity the more time goes on and the more hearts you change. Just like how I think the game starts by introducing the best party member Ryuji.
For real?
I also think the game starts with the best palace, that being a huge castle for a gym teacher called Kamoshida. He's a huge piece of shit who abuses his students physically, as well as using his power to prey on the female students, especially the next party member, An. He even fucked over Ryuji, ruining his dreams of being on the track team by permanently injuring his leg. He's a piece of shit. You instantly get a real drive to get this guy to admit to his crimes. You're also told that stealing the palace treasure could also possibly kill him too, so that's a plus. It's an amazing start, and because it's so good, I kind of feel like the palaces slowly dip in quality the more you progress, with Okumura's being the lowest point. If you know, you know. After that, it starts to get better again, but I don't think they get as good as Kamoshida's palace. I also kind of hate Futaba's pyramid palace because it has sliding puzzles. I fucking hate sliding puzzles. Now, palaces aren't the only place where you can engage in the game's combat. There's a giant one called Mementos, which is built up from the general public's desires who aren't corrupt enough to have their own palace. You can explore this place and take on little side missions of people requesting you to change someone's heart. It's also a good place to grind. Regardless, Persona 5 is peak, the soundtrack is peak, the user interface is especially peak, and the gameplay is peak. I now have Persona 3 Reload and Metaphor ReFantazio in my backlog thanks to this, and I'm very excited to get on with them. Common trend for my content is I kinda tend to shit on God of War 2018 a lot, and I make it very clear that I'm on that side of people that aren't a huge fan of the direction that God of War 2018 took. I didn't like how Kratos was mellowed out, and I especially didn't like how the combat had changed so drastically, with it going for this close-up third-person shooter-esque camera despite the fact it's an action game, making combat situations feel very claustrophobic. I still thought it was good, I gave it a 7 out of 10 overall, but I wasn't a fan of the direction. So color me surprised with the fact I also didn't like Ragnarok. In fact, I actually kind of hated it. It's very rare for this to happen, but I felt genuine anger after finishing it. It pissed me off. Not because the game is bad, but because of the amount of missed potential and stupid decisions they made for it. So if you didn't already know, God of War 2018 was originally a setup for a trilogy, but for some reason they made a weird decision to combine the ideas they had for the last two games and mash them into Ragnarok. And you can really tell because this game feels like a rushed mess when it comes to the story. It feels like it's going through a million things constantly, pushing you through all of these events just to get to the end-all be-all war, that being Ragnarok. But because it rushed through so many of them, you don't feel anything when you're actually fighting in Ragnarok. It also tries to be this huge thing by introducing Thor and Odin, two characters that were one of the biggest mysteries in 2018. And that mystery is kind of what made them feel intimidating in that game. Then they show up in Ragnarok, you see what they look like, and all of that intimidation you felt hearing all these horrific stories from 2018 is just gone like that. Even after the amazing spectacle fight with Thor, I still didn't find him intimidating. He even kills you mid-fight and revives you just because, just to show how strong he is.
Oh no, I say when we're done.
Yeah, again, still didn't care. If Thor and Odin had a huge build-up in an in-between game like they were planning, their reveal might have had more of an impact on me, but that's not the world we live in, is it? There's also an insane amount of new characters introduced that get fuck all development because the game is rushing through to get all of these people to fight in Ragnarok like it's Avengers Endgame or some shit. Although during it, you see barely any of the fight because you're too busy staring at Kratos' chalky grey ass because of their stupid one camera shot gimmick, which, I'm gonna be honest, it kind of hinders the game's narrative, you know. A few cuts here and there might help. Doom Eternal did it all better, with a DLC that was made during a pandemic. I'm just saying. Speaking of all the new characters that are introduced, there's actually a scene where some random ass guy you don't even speak to sacrifices himself, and it's this whole big thing that we're supposed to care about, but you don't even know who the guy is because he's had zero development. It sets up a side quest, I know, but it's so shoehorned in and stupid. Speaking of the side quests, the exploration in Ragnarok is like 10 times bigger than 2018. You actually get to explore all of the realms this time, but bigger isn't always better. I didn't find any of them all too interesting despite the variety of scenery, and I preferred the tight exploration in 2018. I can't deny, a lot of these realms look cool, but I can't say I had fun exploring any of them, probably because the gameplay barely changed. Yet it still suffers from the exact same problems I had with 2018. The combat feels claustrophobic and enemies are just spongy as fuck because of the shoehorned in RPG mechanics that don't actually add all too much and just overcomplicates things for no reason. And it really doesn't help how bad the fucking user interface is. Like, it's worse than 2018's How Did They Manage This? One thing I can give Ragnarok is it made me like 2018 more. That's it really. And after playing this, it makes me realize there was literally zero competition for Game of the Year 2022. Oh yeah, another VR game off the backlog. This time I finished Metro Awakening, which is a game I was very surprised by when it was first announced. Even though the Metro series is probably one of the most immersive series ever created, and bringing the IP into the genre designed for immersion is a no-brainer really, so I don't actually know why I was surprised. It is the polar opposite of Metro Exodus. That game has you spending most of your time on the surface exploring many open areas, whilst Awakening is entirely focused on the Metro tunnels with a very linear design similar to 2033 and Last Light. Awakening actually takes place before 2033, which is interesting, having you play as a character you actually meet in that game, which I won't spoil. Now, I didn't go in expecting Half-Life Alyx levels of immersion because I don't actually think any VR game has ever come close apart from like Vertigo 2. Despite this though, the levels of immersion in Awakening are still kind of mind-blowing. Being able to physically get your bag out to power up a generator or put your gas mask on and change the filters manually it never got old. It felt so cool. I actually felt like I was in this world, exploring these irradiated, horrible environments being jumped by overgrown rats, which is a world you don't actually want to really be in, let's be real. In fact, the world felt so oppressive to me in VR, I actually had to take multiple breaks from it. The amount of dark, dingy vents it makes you explore is genuinely overwhelming. You constantly think shit's gonna jump out at you. There's a big focus on horror in this game, which was definitely a good move for the medium you're playing in. Some of these sections are genuinely awful to go through in VR, just from how tense you feel the whole time. Hearing voices around you with the 360 audio, it's horrible. Horror in VR is just different. Like, I can't even play Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted without someone being in the room with me. I don't have much bad to say about Awakening. The guns feel amazing and look amazing. Like, I love the amount of detail they put into these. I also quite enjoyed the story too. My only gripe is the fact we play as a voiced character, so there's a few sections where you're just stood there like a knob, waiting for the characters to finish talking to each other. I'm not sure why they didn't take the original Metro approach, having the main character be silent, but ah well. It doesn't take away from how good the game is. Man, getting through these games is tiring. It's time to get the guest speaker on to let me take a little break for like 3 minutes or something before I move on to the next one. So the guest today is ItsHorizontal with Slay the Spire. Take it away.
I love roguelikes. I think they're the best subgenre of game, and they are my favorite. And Slay the Spire is my favorite roguelike. Yeah, you got the Balatro and the Risk of Rain 2 before it fell off, but for me, Slay the Spire is my go. But this ain't no ordinary roguelike. There are cards, which I know that sounds a little boring. You a card game? Gross. No, this is the best card game. I have like 80 hours in this game. I love it. And I think you should too. I think you should like it. That's my goal. My goal is to kind of sell you on this game. In Slay the Spire, you have 4 characters. And my favorite character, the Ironclad, is Warrior. You just get real buff and you smack people with your weapon, katana. I don't know what this is. But he's cool because he gets a lot of shield, and then he body slams people, and he's just a hunk. And then you have the Silent. You gotta poison people, you throw knives and stuff. You're kind of like a rogue, and it's fun. This is the beep boop robot bitch. He summons a bunch of orbs that do the different things, but mainly what I like to do is I just tase people. He has these electricity balls. I just tase him. He's pretty fun. He's goated. And then the 4th character, no one plays. I kind of forgot she existed, if I'm being real. So now you know the characters. What do you even do? Well, it's in the fucking name. You gotta slay that spire. You go floor to floor, room to room, getting loot, getting relics and stuff to buff your character and make you do special things, while also attacking like slime monsters, bird people. One of the bosses is a giant donut. Which brings on to my next point. After completing all of the floors, all the levels, and getting loot, at the end of every floor is a boss fight. And that's my favorite thing about roguelikes. I love boss fights. And the boss fights in this game are really good. Except for like 2 of them, like the Time Eater. I hate this guy. I hate him! But the more you progress through the game, the more you play the game, the more cards you unlock, the more relics you unlock, the buff you just unlock a lot more, which makes future runs even better. And one of my favorite things about the game is how each character plays completely differently. The Ironclad is your typical barbarian tank who does a bunch of damage and can take a whole lot. The Silent does damage with poison and block and quick evasive maneuvers, just like a rogue. Beat Boop Bitch is cool and he just tases people. I still don't know what the 4th guy does. Who are you? And the thing is, a lot of people are probably going to be dissuaded from the fact that it is a card game. But when I play this game, and I have 88 hours in this game, I do not consider it a card game. I don't view it like a card game. I just view it like a roguelike. And as a roguelike, it is my favorite and one of the best. But the main reason why I'm bringing up Slay the Spire is because Slay the Spire 2 is coming. And let me tell you, that shit looks magnificent. Oh my god, it looks good. The main reason I'm excited for the sequel is because the first one has a lot of balancing stuff. Like I said earlier, the Time Eater. He's the fun eater. I hate him. He's OP. He's just not fun to go against. But I think Slay the Spire 2 is going to build on everything that makes Slay the Spire 1 so good and remove what makes it bad. And it's going to be probably my perfect game, my perfect roguelike game. And I'm going to spend so much time on that. So if you have not played Slay the Spire 1, I recommend it. I love this game. It is actually just so good and underrated. Ironclad best boy. Fuck the Time Eater.
I trust you.
God damn, I was not expecting to enjoy this game as much as I did. I've only played 3 types of games like this before, those being The Wolf Among Us, Life is Strange, and Tales from the Borderlands. Each time I went in not expecting too much, but I almost always came out pleasantly surprised by it. Well, apart from Life is Strange, I'd say that one matched my expectations. Detroit Become Human is definitely one of those games that I was pleasantly surprised by. The game takes place in a dystopian future where a lot of labor and low-end jobs are performed by androids, which obviously creates a lot of friction with them taking over people's jobs and leaving a lot of them homeless, creating a large group of people who resent androids. These things can literally do any job, like a caretaker or even a detective. The 3 androids you play as fall into these job roles that I mentioned, with 2 of them straying from the path, causing the detective to hunt them down, because when an android doesn't follow what they're programmed to do, they're classed as a deviant and need to be taken care of ASAP before they cause any harm. So you're playing as 2 deviants and one that is trying to stop them. I can't lie though, the 2 deviant stories can be mixed bags. The first one you're introduced to is Kara, who was bought to act as a home caretaker for an abusive, drugged up dad and his daughter. Despite being an android, Kara genuinely cares for the little girl to the point where she deviates to protect her from the dad. Now she has an insanely strong start that starts to get a bit further in. Not bad by any means, but just not as strong as the start. Now the other deviated android is Marcus, an android who was bought to look after an older man who's basically on his last legs. The old fella sees Marcus as his son that he never had, treating him as so, which obviously his real son isn't too happy about. He ends up dying and Marcus gets thrown into an android graveyard to be disposed of, which is a really unsettling section that borders on genuine horror. There's probably some meaning behind him crawling out of this, because he basically becomes the android deity to try and create change for how androids are treated. It's another strong start that gets a bit dull, but I do think it picks up more than Kara's story because Marcus has a stronger role in the overall story. Now the final android is easily the best, and that's Connor, an android specifically designed to assist law enforcement. You're frequently sent to crime scenes to try and locate deviant androids that have gone rogue, and you're given many different choices as Connor to lean towards siding with the androids and eventually going rogue yourself or following your orders. Now a big element of games like this are the choices you make, and out of all of the ones I've played, Detroit felt like it had the most impact on the choices I made. Which is kind of a bummer because I made some really awful choices, thinking it was the right thing to do in the moment. Okay, to be fair on myself, I did make a lot of good choices too, but I ended up fucking everything up near the end and kept making really stupid choices out of panic. The only thing that I can take away from the game is the fact it made my PC blue screen once, and I will never forgive it for that.
Let's start this road movie with some road kill!
We just don't get games like this anymore. Shadows of the Damned is downright stupid, idiotic, and extremely crude. I mean, the pistol you use is literally called the boner. All of these factors though are why I loved almost every second playing Shadows of the Damned. It's a game created by Suda51, who, if you don't know, creates some of the strangest over-the-top games you've ever seen, like No More Heroes. What makes Shadows of the Damned my favourite Suda51 creation is the fact he collaborated with the man, the myth, the creator of the evil within himself, Shinji motherfucking Mikami. Oh, he also made Resident Evil 4 too. And you can tell playing Shadows of the Damned because it plays almost exactly like it. Laser sight for aiming and all. I don't think it plays as well as Resident Evil 4, but it makes up for it with its level design and environments. It takes place in hell, but like a really intriguing interpretation of hell. You aren't surrounded by flames and pits of lava like most interpretations of hell. Instead, you're mainly exploring Victorian-style buildings and cobblestone streets, with everything feeling cold, which is the complete opposite of what you'd think of when it comes to hell. I actually find this to be one of the creepiest interpretations of it, and honestly I can't exactly put into words why this is. The enemy designs definitely don't help though, because this game has some fucked up monsters and bosses. Like this one guy who has this accordion sound play whenever he's pissed off. This sound freaks me out and it makes the boss fight feel genuinely tense because you can just hear it when it's nearby, and its grating sound puts you on edge knowing you could die at any point. Oh, and fucking the guy who composed the soundtrack for Silent Hill did the OST for this too, which definitely doesn't help with the creep factor of it.
Is it just me, or are these crystals a bit phallic?
Alright, the stupid ass commentary helps put me at ease at least. The game's an absolute joyride that constantly one-ups itself for how weird and over the top it can be. And I truly believe this is Suda51's magnum opus. I'm so glad it got another chance with a remaster, and I definitely recommend checking it out, even though it's pretty jank. Still Wakes the Deep surprised the hell out of me, as well as scaring the shit out of me. Now, I usually don't like the Outlast style of defenseless run and hide horror games. I've always been more of a having a weapon to fight back against the abominations kind of horror game guy. Oh, look what's sliding up the screen, oh no! Yet despite this, I loved my entire time playing through Still Wakes the Deep. It also actually managed to scare me a few times too, which please don't tell anyone that happened. Still Wakes the Deep takes place on an oil rig, which is already a brilliant setting for any form of horror. I mean, think about it. Oil rigs are probably one of the most isolated places you could be. You're in the middle of the ocean with no way of getting out of there aside from by boat or by helicopter, both of which get destroyed fairly quickly. The game has us playing as a Scottish fella named Kaz, which if you don't already know, is short for Callum, which meant I was playing as my good friend the Sober Scot and I just couldn't get that out of my head. I also didn't play with subtitles on, so I didn't know what was being said to me half the time.
Pipe's leaking. If it's not one thing, it's the other. See this whole rig? It's a pile of shite. It's falling apart.
Obviously I'm joking. In fact, I got quite attached to some of these characters. They're all so well written, and the game does such an evil thing of letting you go around and get to know them all in the beginning, just to have them all die one by one horrifically and tragically. I'm not going to show any of the deaths due to spoiler reasons because I think it's a game you should experience for yourself. So yeah, in Still Wakes the Deep you're on an oil rig and everything seems to be going pretty normal at first. You know, you're being yelled at by your boss and told to fuck off because you're fired.
Shut it, you clacky gobshite.
But before you can leave, some unknown entity is unleashed upon the rig due to a drilling accident in the ocean. And the thing that's been drilled into is like this weird alien-esque blob that mutilates people, turning them into monsters. It's heavily inspired by The Thing, and I kind of love that. What I also love is the build up to this, and the use of utilizing the fear of the unknown. For quite a while after the drilling event, you're making your way through the bowels of the rig. You constantly hear unsettling noises around you of what you assume are unfortunate victims of the monsters the crew have become, but it isn't until quite later in where you actually get a proper look at what the fuck it's been doing to people. Like this one bit where you're in the lower part of the rig, which is almost pitch black, and it feels like the game is fucking with you, constantly playing noises of a mutated crew member lurking around you, making it feel like he's gonna jump you around every corner. Yet despite this, I don't actually know if he can even attack you at this point. I can imagine it's not great on a replay knowing this, but during my first time through, man, it shit me up. Also the environment, like the further in you get, the more covered the rig becomes by this weird flesh substance, which is dangerous to touch. And you can see that because you're able to see some of the crew members who were unfortunate victims of it. It's fucked up imagery, man. Incredible game. I had a great time with it. It's not very replayable, but hey, it's still definitely worth checking out. I'm also excited to check out the DLC when I have the time to. Oh my god, Five Nights at Freddy's, yes! Okay, I'm gonna admit something. I've voiced my opinion in old videos how much I hate FNaF, but that's kind of a lie. This series is actually quite a guilty pleasure for me. I mean, hell, Springtrap was added to Dead by Daylight pretty recently, and I've prestiged him like 20 times. Anyway, time to talk about what I consider the best game in the franchise. Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted. The reason why I think it's the best one is because I think the traditional sat-down camera gameplay of FNaF works best in a VR setting. See, as much as I do like the franchise, the games were never really, well, fun, in my opinion. Sure, some were scary, especially the first game, but nothing beats physically being there in the office and seeing the hulking animatronics slowly walk towards your office. Trust me, it's scary as shit. These fellas absolutely tower over you in VR. The footage does not give it justice. Help Wanted has recreations of FNaF 1 to 3, and I'm actually too scared to play 3. I don't know why Springtrap in VR just freaks me out.
I always come back.
FNaF 2 is way easier in VR though, because you don't have to open up the camera to wind up the music box to prevent this spindly gimp from getting you. What I appreciate is the unique minigames though, that aren't just recreating the games, and they take full advantage of VR. For example, the ones where you have to repair the 4 main animatronics, forcing you to get up close and personal with them. Horrifying shit. Oh, and of course there's the vent repair minigames, which is probably the most arse-clenching shit you can play, especially the Ennard one. For the longest time, I refused to play that shit. His design is too scary for me. I also don't like how he has a habit of wearing people's skin. That's a whole thing that I don't want to get into though, that's fucking grim. Now, Help Wanted 2 is a different story. I'm very mixed on this game, not because I think it's bad, because it's still a really solid VR minigame collection, but one of the reasons I don't like it as much is because it takes away the focus on the dingy, grim FNaF games and puts that focus on the more weird futuristic era, you know, like Security Breach and Sister Location. Okay, to be fair, I do actually like Sister Location, and the recreations of those sections of those bits in VR are absolutely horrifying. At least I can imagine they are. See, when I try and play those sections specifically, I just get a static screen because there's a weird glitch with my VR headset that still hasn't been fixed for whatever reason. So I have to play Help Wanted 2 in flat mode. And yeah, it's just a bit of a shit game when the whole gimmick it was made for is just gone. So not only am I not a huge fan of the direction, I have to play it in the mode it wasn't made for, which really shows the cracks of the fact it's just a pretty bland minigame collection. Genuinely, I would have enjoyed it if I was able to play it in VR, and to be fair on it, I probably wouldn't also enjoy Help Wanted 1 in flat mode either. Luckily, I can play that one in VR, so yippee.
Shying away, I'll be coming for you, love, okay?
Last of Us Part 2 is a game full of hate. Not only is it severely hated by the internet, but it feels like almost every single character hates each other as well as the developers themselves. It's a game designed to make you feel like complete and utter shit with its story, and even elements of the gameplay, having characters yell out their friend's name as you blow their legs off with a shotgun. Even the dogs have names they scream out as they're lured by my scent into a sneakily placed trap. Honestly, gameplay-wise, I'm actually genuinely surprised how fun this game is. If you watch my stuff, you know I'm like the #1 cinematic PlayStation exclusive hater, because they tend to focus way more on the cutscenes and narrative, letting the gameplay take more of a backseat. The Last of Us 2 doesn't really do that. The gameplay is such an improvement over the original. Like, you have significantly more mobility playing as Ellie, mainly because you're not a fucking decrepit old golf fan. But it's not only that, it just feels more refined. Abby also plays extremely well when you play her half. There's just so many options to taking on combat encounters, and Abby and Ellie make you want to play differently. With Ellie, I went for more of a stealth style, which works extremely well with the mechanics. You can easily feel like a terrifying apex predator picking off enemies one by one. Then as Abby, I just roll up on people and it's good shit, and yeah, gameplay is the most important part of any game for me, so The Last of Us 2 gets the Proxidist seal of approval automatically for me. Now it's time to get controversial and move on to the story, which is the part that everyone hates. I liked the story. Yeah, I know, wow, crazy. Despite liking it, I do understand why people despise it though. I mean, they literally spent the entire first game getting you attached to Joel and Ellie, just to have Ellie resent Joel in the sequel. Oh, and of course kill Joel off entirely in possibly one of the most disrespectful deaths in any game. Oh, and then they make you play as Joel's killer with attempts to make you empathize with her at the midway point. It's honestly pretty fucking brutal, like the game gives you no chance to feel any form of happiness at any point. And in the moments where you do feel a brief bit of any form of joy, it's ripped away from you almost instantly. The game's story is designed to make you feel emotionally exhausted and empty, and I fucking love it. I think it just fits the universe perfectly. This is an infected, apocalyptic world that is far gone from any hope of a cure. I mean, we all know how The Last of Us 1 ends. Joel is literally the one who rips that sense of hope away from everyone, just for his selfish need of keeping Ellie alive. There's a whole retcon that Joel killed Abby's father during that whole incident, and he was the one who was about to perform surgery on Ellie, and it's why Abby has the drive to seek revenge on Joel for obviously brutally murdering her father. It's a spiral of revenge. Joel killing Abby's father causes his death, which in turn gives Ellie the drive to seek out everyone involved and kill them one by one. It's a game about the cycle of revenge, and how that shit does not bring you closure whatsoever. We see this heavily in Abby's section as she slowly comes across all the corpses of her friends that we killed as Ellie in the first half, just because she wanted to seek revenge and kill Joel, creating another person who wants to do the exact same thing she did to him. It's pretty pretentious, but I do genuinely like it, and yeah, if I were to give some negatives, I do think the game definitely drags. Like, it does not feel like it needs to be 20 hours. Abby's sections especially drag their feet, I can't lie. Like, some of her bits are the best in the game, but when they're not, they can be pretty boring to deal with. I don't think I'll replay The Last of Us 2 again, but I definitely had a really fun, miserable time playing through it. Doom Eternal should have won Game of the Year that year though. I'm just saying. Okay, it's time for me to take a break and let someone else take on a game from their backlog. Today we have, oh for fuck's sake, him again.
Oh, ladies and longs, after many a year of waiting on this game, I have finally played Final Fantasy 16. What? You actually think I beat it? I'm a gamer. Seeing the credits on a game you bankrupted your family for is a luxury that most of us in this niche can't afford. My terrible spending habits aside, from day one when this game was choosing to ditch the more traditional RPG gameplay the series was always known for in favor of a more action game approach to something like Devil May Cry, it also kind of helps that they got the combat director of DMZ to work on this game. Man, I was just so fucking hyped. But like the patient little long strong that I am, I decided to wait until the time and money was right, and come to a specific date in 2025, which I will not be elaborating on further because I like keeping everybody on the edge of their seats. I finally pulled the trigger and got the game, and man, let me tell you, the price was worth it. I fucking loved the game's combat. While not on par whatsoever to something like Devil May Cry in any way, shape, or form, this is definitely one of the best adaptations of that formula I've seen to date. I absolutely love the story, and while yes, there are some issues that I have, like a few plot holes and probably one of the most obvious twists I think I've ever seen in a video game story, everything from the voice acting, Ben Starr is such a gem to gaming, let me just tell you that right now. Whether he's playing the broody Clive Rossfield or just losing his shit playing in a Balatro commercial, to the game's set pieces. It just kicks so much ass and is probably one of the most engaged I've ever been in a Final Fantasy plot since 7. And I'm talking OG 7. No, not even the remakes. I prefer them looking like off-brand Wish sex toys. But all jokes aside, this is probably one of the best Final Fantasy games I've ever played. And while I don't think it's the best, I still think that 7 Remake still inches it out a bit. I still personally think that this is a good next step for the series and probably the best place for any filthy casuals to get their start if they were thinking about jumping into this series. But now, my ladies and longs, even though this isn't my channel, but I'll still be referring to you that way, there is a little bit of an elephant in the room that needs addressing. And what might that elephant be, you might be thinking to yourself? Well, it's him. You see, Prox has done something to me that needs to be talked about because of how disgusted I am at the prospect. Yeah, I'm turning this segment of the video into an expose. You see, Proxidist has been kind enough to include me in like his 10th video on the channel, but behind the scenes, this is a man of pure evil, and his maliciousness runs deeper than he'll ever show to you on camera. You see, Prox caused me to re-download Dead by Daylight. This is a sin punishable by death.
GORI Cuddly Carnage is a really neat little indie game, and guess what? It's within the character action genre, which is already an incredibly good thing. We need more third-person action games within this genre. In GORI, you play as a cat on a hoverboard that you're able to customize, and yes, there's a grim-ass neon green skin, so Proxidist seal of approval already. Within the game, you use the hoverboard as a traversal tool, zooming around, grinding on rails, and even wall running. What's cool is the fact the hoverboard is also used as the main weapon. You dash around performing cool tricks on it, which cuts up everything around you. There's quite a lot of combos you can pull off, and a lot of extra moves as well. There's quite a lot of depth here, and it's fun all the way through. It's fairly short runtime. GORI is not afraid to get weird as shit too. The story is about a bunch of toys that have come alive and like mutated into weird ass creatures because of experiments, killing all of humanity. You know, the usual apocalypse shit. Some of the enemies are incredibly freaky looking, and the areas are not afraid to get extremely weird, like Psychonauts Mindscape level of weird. It's kind of awesome, and it keeps the game constantly fresh feeling all the way through. There's obviously quite a bit of jank here and there, but it doesn't take away from how fun the game is. If you're a fan of character action, I definitely recommend checking this one out. Now it's time to talk about the final game in the season of my Backlog series, and we're ending it with a big one, Ghost of Tsushima. It's just an extremely high quality Ubisoft game. I don't entirely get the hype behind it. Yeah, it's beautiful to look at, the story is great and the gameplay is pretty decent, but outside of all of that, it falls into the open world trappings that Ubisoft falls into. You know, it's incredibly weird that PlayStation now owns 2 high quality Ubisoft games as IPs. Huh. Again, I'm not saying it's a bad game, I had a good time playing it, but like, I genuinely do not have much to say about it. It's an open world game set in Japan. Wowee, it's just pretty overrated, I can't lie. So yeah, after Ghost of Yotai, make another Infamous game, Sucker Punch. Or Sly, maybe both, I don't know. Ghost of Tsushima is the most 7 out of 10 game I've played, that's all I really have to say about it. Well, that's a wrap on this season of my Backlog series. I'll be making a return soon, rebranding it and adding more elements to it. Thank you all so much for the support. It actually amazes me how many of you watch my content just for the Backlog videos. This was originally just a neat little idea I had years back. I never thought it would get this big. Thank you all so much, honestly. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you've been playing in your Backlog recently. Are you enjoying the game, or are you tempted to drop it and move on to something else? I hope you all enjoyed watching, and I'll see you all in the future with the next rendition of my Backlog series.